So this is going to be another quick video. I don't really have any long arguments to make, just a few observations on things I've seen and heard in the last little while. So number one, when I talk about antinatalism, I try to relate it to my own life sometimes in order to make it more real, more relatable to people so that they understand suffering and what that means in a human life. But I think a lot of people think of it as me complaining about my life or complaining about something. And that's totally not what I'm trying to do, although I understand why it comes across that way. I actually have a lot to feel happy about. A lot of things have gone in my way, in the last little while. So I have lots of things to be happy about, and I'm never saying that my life is so devoid of happiness that it's just it's just suffering all the way 100%. I'm just trying to make a point with bad parts of my life, right? And I'm trying to say that everyone has those parts of their lives that are bad, that they sometimes don't talk about, but we all have them. So that's what I'm trying to say. I'm not trying to, the aim is not to complain about my life. It's to basically draw attention to the bad parts of life, which, like as I said, a lot of people tend to ignore even. So the second thing I want to talk about is basically the idea of antinatalism. And I heard another YouTuber basically say that antinatalism is simply an opinion that one would have about birth, and that antinatalism doesn't recommend any steps to take in terms of like reducing the population. I could see that to a certain extent, but antinatalism is a moral view. And if you for yourself have a moral view on birth, which is that you shouldn't bring new life into existence, then you're making the same moral argument that any other human being would make in your shoes, because you're playing the same exact game when it comes to reproduction. Like, you're making the exact same moral argument. It's not that if one person has a kid, their kid won't suffer, but if you have a kid, your kid will suffer. That's not the way it works. So I understand that, it's not a matter of making antinatalism is not making recommendations in terms of what to do when you have the moral view that it is immoral to have kids. But I mean, it's like the moral obligation is so baked in, it's so intrinsic to the argument that you would have to believe that everyone else, if you come to the rational conclusion that it is immoral to have kids, that everybody else would feel the same exact way. I'm not saying everybody else will have to feel exactly the same way, but the argument applies to every single person the exact same way it applies to you. And we all want to do the moral thing, right? I don't think anybody wants to do the immoral thing, and I'm sure I'm referencing some philosophical argument that I have no clue about. But I mean, when you're talking about morality, you want to do the moral thing, so it has to apply to every single other person. And in that respect, it's sort of a recommendation as to what to do when you think that it is immoral to have kids, and it applies to everyone in the world. Like I said, when it comes to reproduction, we're all playing the same exact game, right? Anyway, that's all I gotta say. That's it for now. Bye.